Good afternoon. There's still no news of a young man from Southampton who's been missing in London since the bomb blasts. Richard Ellery's parents have spent another desperate 24 hours waiting to hear if he's still alive. They haven't heard from him since 8:30 on Thursday morning.
Trevor Ellery has been searching this area, hoping to find his 21-year-old son. He showed commuters this photograph of Richard, hoping someone will remember seeing him. Trevor and his wife Beverly last heard from their son when he sent them a text message at 8:30 on Thursday morning. He told them he'd just arrived at Liverpool Street Station. 20 minutes later, a bomb exploded in the second carriage of a Circle Line tube train on its way towards Aldgate. No one knows whether Richard was on that train, but it's possible he would have been travelling on the Circle Line on his way to High Street Kensington, where he works. His parents have released a brief statement in which they say, "We've tried all means of getting in touch with Richard and would welcome news from anyone who may have seen him or knows where he is." Sarah Merchant for Merdian News.
Meanwhile, police have revealed that it cost £80,000 to evacuate Portsmouth Harbour after a hoax bomb call just hours after the blast in London. The harbour, a nearby train and bus station at the Hard, were closed for 3 hours on Thursday. Ian Tebbott, who's 59 and from Hayling Island in Hampshire, was jailed yesterday for 6 months for making the call. And people have been lighting candles to remember those who lost their lives in the terror attacks. Special prayers are being said at the Anglican Cathedral in Portsmouth, as well as other places of worship across the south. Now for the rest of the day's news. More prisoners commit suicide in Winchester Prison than almost any other jail in the country. There have been 23 deaths there in the last 10 years. Prison reform campaigners say the figures show the current penal system is failing.
These are two of the 23 men who've committed suicide at Winchester Prison in the last 10 years. The jail has the third worst record in the country, according to figures published today. Nationally, 804 prisoners have committed suicide in the last 10 years. 39 have died already this year, 16 last month. It comes as the prison population has reached a record high of more than 76,000, increasing by 46% in 10 years. The Howard League for Penal Reform calls it a shameful indictment of our prison system.
Let's use instead community interventions that get people to make amends for the wrong they've done. And I ask the government to do all it can to avoid the overuse of prison so that we can save lives.
At Winchester Prison, managers say the report is out of date. There hasn't been a suicide here in 2 years. Measures are in place, including safer cells and a counselling service.
We have a very robust and critical safer custody team which look at cases of self-harm and vulnerable prisoners in depth, and we continually try and improve our systems every day.
But the Howard League says overcrowding and staffing problems need to be addressed at Britain's jails, and they want courts to consider community sentences instead of imprisonment to stop what they call the secret death penalty in our jails.
A coroner is calling for burials at sea to be stopped because of the number of bodies being washed ashore on the Isle of Wight. The Needles is one of only 3 sites in the UK licensed for the practice. The coroner says it causes further distress to families when remains are washed up. In Portsmouth, they've been trying to lift the spirits of the nation with a series of street parties to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the ending of World War II. The event has been planned for months, and the city's Lord Mayor has been visiting every street involved.
For Portsmouth's Lord Mayor, it's been a busy day helping the city mark 60 years of history, back to the summer of 1945, when street parties like this celebrated the end of World War II. Portsmouth is famous for this kind of community get-together, and hundreds of families are on the streets today keeping up the tradition.
Everyone's into it, and this road, it's just an ongoing thing. So, yeah, everyone's joined in, everyone's out, so it's brilliant.
This street particularly, everyone's really friendly, so it always works.
We're visiting the parties, bringing the Lord Mayor to them, which they're very appreciative of, and we're having a fun day as well.
But with more than a dozen streets on the schedule, there wasn't much time for a chat before they were back on the bus and on to the next street.
I think it's very good for the city. Everybody enjoys putting on street parties. I've just been told this street puts on a street party for any reason whatsoever.
While the youngsters were simply enjoying the fun, today's celebrations also prompted some memories of wartime Portsmouth.
This is a picture of my big sister during the war when she was being evacuated. I don't really know a lot more about that because I wasn't around, obviously, I wasn't born.
Meanwhile, as the band played on, the Mayor and Mayoress were off to meet the next group of celebrating citizens. There are parties like this going on all over the city, and most of them will continue well after midnight. Nigel Burwood in Langford Road at Portsmouth for Merdian News.
Meanwhile, children on the Isle of Wight have been transported back in time for some more victory celebrations.
It may have been 60 years ago, but children on the Isle of Wight have been reliving the celebrations that followed the end of the Second World War. The youngsters dressed in red, white and blue for the street party that's been organised by parents and staff at Rookley and Chillerton Primary School. They were also raising money for the Royal British Legion as part of their biggest thank you campaign, which aims to help veterans of the conflict. Those who lived through the war say it's important that the events 60 years ago aren't forgotten.
I think the more history they can talk about in this respect, the better it'll be, because you know, it's a terrific thing. We've had peace now for the last 60 years, which we fought for a long time.
With many veterans getting older, the school have ensured their thoughts and memories are kept for posterity. They've started a memory book that will be kept for future generations. Dave Russell on the Isle of Wight for Meridian News.
And finally, David Gower may be best known for his cricket talent, but the former Hampshire and England captain is also bowled over by wildlife. He's been to Marwell Zoo near Winchester to open the new roof of the world enclosure for the zoo's 3 rare snow leopards.
Another big Davis from Marwell. Marwell has done so
David Gower was born in Africa, and helping endangered animals is a subject close to his heart. He was in at the start of the snow leopard appeal launched a year ago, and there again at its conclusion.
This is actually how I was brought up, not in a cage myself, but in Africa. OK, this is Asia. With snow leopards today, we're concentrating on them, and it's a great display. This gives them far more space, it makes them far more visible too. And of course, when you're trying to put on show animals like this, they do need to be visible.
The opening coincided with the second birthday of this cub called Binu. Mum Yasmin was born at Marwell, Dad Kirill came from Helsinki Zoo. Snow leopards come from the Himalayas, and they're rare, secretive animals.
They come from a particularly harsh region. Very difficult for any researchers to really get any kind of footage on them at all. I can remember watching a documentary a while ago, and there was something like 1.5 minute footage of a snow leopard in 2 or 3 years of study.
9-year-old Ahana Kennedy from Kimpton near Andover raised the first £500 towards the appeal from a sponsored walk. The snow leopards are certainly a big draw for the children.
They look really nice, and they're soft, cuddly.
Do you find them scary?
Not that.
He's looking at you.
I know. I think it's really nice how it's got the black and white together with spots.
The whole project costs £600,000 and includes specially imported nomadic tents from Mongolia to create the Himalayan atmosphere. The snow leopards, whose old enclosure was almost 30 years old, seemed very contented. Jeremy Pearce at Marwell for Meridian News.
Well, with promises of hot weather to come, let's cross to Martin Davis now for the full forecast.
See France, Dover Calais Ferries, sponsors of Meridian Weather.
Hello, good evening. Dave Corbyn's become a regular contributor to our collection of weather photographs. This one taken early this morning at Darlston Country Park. A misty start this morning, probably be the same tomorrow morning too, because that misty low cloud that we had this morning is coming back towards us again overnight tonight. Glorious sunshine, of course, for most of us this afternoon. But as we go through the night, the cloud will come back in from the north and the east. It'll stay dry, but by the end of the night, most of the region quite cloudy again, and therefore rather a grey start for many of us in the morning. The cloud will clear from the southwest first, so you might find that you get bright in the west of the region pretty quickly, particularly out in West Dorset. You'll find probably a sunny start to the day there. And eventually, as we go through the day, the cloud will burn back up towards the north and east. We'll all end up with sunshine again through most of the day tomorrow. And if anything, even warmer than today. Temperatures up around 27 in the west, so a hot day really there. The further east you are, we have to wait that little bit longer for the cloud to break up. Temperatures not quite so high, but everywhere really a very pleasant afternoon tomorrow afternoon. And it just gets hotter for Monday and Tuesday. Temperatures high 20s in many places, lots of sunshine. Just the chance of a thundery shower turning up on Wednesday. We'll keep you posted about that. Tomorrow's fine.
Well, that's all from us today. We're back tomorrow just before midday. Do join us then if you can. But for now, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.